I'd like to welcome you to the library. I know most of you, some of you I don't. But I'm really pleased and honored that the public library, your public library here in Missouri, Jeff City, Missouri, can present this great writer. It's a young man who's going to change everything. This is a young man, if you've seen his work recited on YouTube or read his books, you know what a wonderful writer this is. I'm the type of person, I've been reading poetry, writing poetry my whole life. But this guy makes it all new. I'm not kidding. We're really in a special place, and let's welcome Greg Brownderville.
Thank you, George, for that too kind introduction. And thanks to everybody at the library and Bob, and everybody who's made this night possible, and to y'all for coming out. I really appreciate it. It was an appropriately windy night for a reading from a book called Gust. The first poem I'm going to read is about the weirdest thing I ever saw as a young boy playing summer baseball. And it's called Vanilla Home Run. Left arm stretching for the catch, the difference between winning and losing. Sun among the diamonds of a mesh metal wall holds the perfect scoop against a huge and hungry silence. Woozy with heat and the pungency of DEET, keeping self enough, just enough, to play at having none, he decides. What was aimed at the Black Panther street's dark mouth and green light eyes must not be stolen from the air, must be going, gone. But for one quick tick, it's his to love. He's there with vanilla home run in a sugar cone glove. I asked my friend Joe, I was playing in the outfield that night, and I saw Joe catch this ball, and if he catches it, we win. If he drops it, we lose. His arm's over this little chain link fence. And no one could see it but me. I was close enough. I could see what he did. He just kind of, as soon as he had control, but just for a split second, he just dropped it. I said, why'd you do that? He's like, well, if I catch it, it's just any old pop fly, but if I drop it, I held a home run. Our team was so bad, the win was really sort of inconsequential. So this next poem is based on an interview I conducted with a lady from South Dakota named Sharon Warren. I just got on the computer one day and saw this story on Yahoo News about this lady who was taken up in a tornado and carried 1,000 feet. And she was dropped down unhurt. And I got to looking at the article and realized she's probably still alive. They had given her age. She was 9 years old in 1955. So I thought, I'll just run a Yahoo people search while I'm in Yahoo and call her up. Ended up having a conversation with her. This is called All of This Only 50 Miles from the Former Home of L. Frank Baum, creator of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. July 1st, 1955, Edmonds County, South Dakota. Bright blues and greens, the sun a faceless coin. 9-year-old Sharon Warren, her mother trailing in a car, was riding home a freshly purchased gray and white mare. Sudden clouds bombed hail. The mother stopped and put a puffy black coat on the girl and said, "Cut across the field to the house. I'll take the road around and meet you." Seconds later, there it was in a camouflage sky, a clay pot on an unmanned potter's wheel. The horse fled, muscling up a high hill. The mother made it home and ran toward her daughter, whose long yellow hair swirled unmeaningfully in the wind, a drop of food coloring in a glass of water. Still astraddle the horse, Sharon ascended from the earth. She rode 1,000 feet inside a whirl one witness called a bale of wire in air. Riderless, the mare alighted in a canter. The girl landed like an airplane, let down easy into wheat, the wind italicized. Sharon tells this story with a poet's flair, but asked what it was like to ride inside the gust, she can muster not a solitary sentence of description. Forever, the best of all saying, whatever else it means there's something unsayable here. It's really great to see some of my students, current and past. Thank y'all for coming out, and colleagues as well. It means a lot. I want to read a poem from the first section of the book. It's actually, there's a little epigraph poem, but then but the first poem of the first section is this one called Dark Corner. And then I'll read a poem from the final section. I think these two poems kind of talk to each other.
I'm sorry. Okay, I turned it off.
Thank you. All right. Happens to the best of us. One time I was at a reading at Swanee Writers Conference, and one of my teachers, old teachers, Barry Hanna, was about to read. He was just about to read. He hadn't started, and the cell phone started going off. And he wasn't particularly gracious about it. He was just kind of up there scowling. And nothing happened. It just kept ringing. And all of a sudden, he realized it was coming from behind him. It was in his bag. And he was like, he said, "Oh, God, not me." Then he tried to blame it on his wife. Wasn't Barry's best moment. She's like, "She's always calling me. She took me into getting that thing." I was like, "Barry, it's not your wife's fault." All right. So this is called Dark Corner. Me and Sparrow Rance were friends ever since they clipped our unbiblical cords. Side by side as babies, we rode our mama's cotton sacks and later worked from caint to caint together in the fields. Soon as Aubrey, Sparrow's brother, got old enough to shadow us, he made it 3, and Dark Corner, Arkansas had never seen such devilment. Our 15th summer, men and boys both, me and Sparrow lit a fire below a rotten tupelo and smoked out the bees. We sawed the tree down, stole the hive, and trucked it home along a path as wavy as a panther tail. We cut the comb in little waffly squares to go in every jar. That was the awfulest amount of honey, filled up 2 No. 3 wash tubs like we took a bath in. After we got it all canned, a few jars had some live bees in them. We were sucking honey off the comb, and Sparrow asked if I believed in ghosts. I told him I would have to think about it. He said one night when he was 6, a shadow man with an ankly cypress branch for a cane shambled in the house and lifted Aubrey off his corn shucks, held him for a spell, and said, "Are you dead yet?" Me and Sparrow went frog gigging one night. I held the light. Where the swamp was loggy and we couldn't pass, you'd have thought bluegrass done gone metal, way he worked that banjo of a chainsaw. Gar passed the boat like black submarines. We floated, listening to locusts, tree frogs, panthers. Thought we saw a bull shark up from the Gulf. As the moon slipped under cloud cover like a scared face, drumfish took to drumming. "Listen," Sparrow whispered. "Listen to that drum. It's like a stuttering heart." I was paddling, not to get somewhere, but just for pleasure, working that lazy water, and Sparrow said, "I swear it was a wet tornado." Said it a little too loud, like I was arguing. If I'd have jumped in, we both might have died. I should have tried. I told him he was talking crazy. He said, "God won't save me. He's doing me just like I done Aubrey." Said sleep was a strong woman, but couldn't take him anymore. Every night he stuck to his covers, doused with sweat, seeing Aubrey spit and flail and bob loud-eyed like a holy roller getting baptized. One night he said, "I threw my sheet off and the demons come a-swishing in chilly through my pores. Next day I seen Jesus in overalls nibbling a ground cherry. he moseyed off into the tall cotton saying, "See you in the funny papers." This Monday at the market, I spied a jar of raw local honey. The comb was like a box of shells. I thought of Sparrow Rance, them eyes of his like a kitten's not all the way open yet. Late that man-child summer, he fired a goose gun at the stuttering drum in his chest and left me a chainsaw banjo and the need to truck with ghosts. The last section of the book is called Ghosts, and this poem from that section is called Tableland at Zero. At church this morning, Sister Fada sang a special called Higher Ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland. Every time I hear that song, I see a quail and manna picnic, a potluck in the wilderness. Sister Fada raised her hand and closed her eyes, whining high and country with a voice of pure banana cream Jesus. No one had your pew. A new boy seemed at home in mine. Night's on its way from Georgia, spreading white icing on the world. Soon I'll disappear into the woods again. Till then I'll sit and talk and watch you whilst you sleep. I'm 0 years old now too, Mama. A few years back when I was only 6, you told me, never make snow cream out of the first snow of the year. The first one purifies the air. That night last summer, just before I drowned, me and Sister laid face up on a sand blow, my lips ajar with awe. Looking at me from the side, she said, "The Big Dipper's a pouring stars in your mouth, brother." So I swallowed and they purified me like a snow. Then I went dissolving in the river. Anymore, I don't desire to sup or sip other than to swig the stars. Last week, Cache River froze to a crystal highway, but the water fell out, swagging planks of ice cracking, collapsing, disappearing into the swamp, but still, around 1,000 tupelos and cypress, glass tabletops hold, serving nothing, nothing. Clear, clean, holiest nothing. Don't be afraid, too, Mama. I know the cancer hurts right now, but tomorrow's your 0th birthday. Well, after all that death, I read a very different kind of poem. This is sort of poem as press conference. For this one, I want you to imagine that there was a Van Gogh exhibit. Bob will get on me for not saying Van Gogh. And I just can't bring myself to do it. I just don't have enough of Alex Trebek in me or something. But so there was a Van Gogh exhibit in Little Rock, Arkansas, and somebody stole a very famous Van Gogh painting and took out down the road with it. And this thief was overtaken in little old Monroe County, Arkansas. And so national media converge on this small town, this little small county, for a press conference with the Monroe County Sheriff, who is known as the Poetic Sheriff. And this is part of the press conference. Sheriff Conway, Sheriff, we understand there was a physical struggle to apprehend Mr. Dobbs. Yes, sir. It was like passionate coitus as we rolled and moaned in the dewy green of the grass, biting, scratching, tangling, while the moon sat silent on the table of the sky like a cold, stale biscuit. Sheriff Conway, how did you locate Dobbs? I stopped Dobbs on Highway 49, my car glittering blue in the sultry southern night. I approached his vermilion Pontiac and he stepped out handsomely, starlight dancing on his roach of hair, a mosquito flirting with the pink swirl of his ear. All at once he ran. I gave pursuit and wrangled him gamely to the grass near the edge of the woods. Are there any other suspects? I'm not at liberty to sing of such a matter. I will say that the suspect's ears were possessed of a strange mollusk-like quality, like open clamshells with clams still in them. I might even say that all human ears are unspeakably strange to me in this way. Sheriff, was the painting in Dobbs's car? Yes, ma'am. The masterpiece lay secure in the passenger seat. In the back seat, a white blanket was gathered in a cumulus bundle, suggesting the cloud of hopelessness that hangs over many third world countries today. Where is the painting now? The authorities here are holding the painting for now. Even as we speak, it is at a safe, undisclosed location, being watched over by my deputy, Tommy Wampler, his mustache like a soft brown fuzzy worm sleeping on his lip. One of my students who just arrived, Nick Bateman, wrote a poem this semester in workshop. I teach workshops at Lincoln here in Jeff City. And he said, I just kind of woke up one night like 3 a.m. and wrote this down. I don't know what was going through my head. That's kind of how that poetic sheriff poem happened to me. Okay, I would like to read a poem from the second section of this book, towards the end of which section there are a suite of poems that I wrote under the influence of poetry I had read in the Shona language of Zimbabwe. I was fortunate to study Shona with Isaac Masse, who was a professor at my undergraduate institution, Washita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. He taught me Shona, and we looked at some Shona poetry. And I was so taken with the rhythms of the poetry I read in Shona, and kind of the way the poems were organized and the imagery. So I wrote some poems that are in Gus when I was kind of thinking about that and feeling the influence of the Shona poetry. This one is called Panjandrum. Having left his queen Savannah at the Pianostok in Prokofiev, the moon seemed a brev above Panjandrum as he tripped on his whiskey through a city gone dead and fed to the forest. Streets like these, he thought, ought to be bought by the game and fish. He twisted his ankles among the honeysuckle strangles. Beware the trees, beware. Let them, trees will net you in the shadows of their branches. Stars crawled all over the air, got in his hair, and spun him a gossamer galaxy. Meantime, his red-tressed Otto Antonym undressed in the glum among the high drapes and pie safes of the deteriorarium. His fathers had calloused their hands indoorsing woman, fidgeted when a man made of night gripped a child-bearing baluster and screwed it into place. Now the white peeled off in scales. Round here his family told the tales, but the jungle slithered in from the thin and tangled the town green. He worried about his queen. Then this evening happened, all he'd feared. Panthers tantrumed and ran the Panjandrum through a sticker-wicked thicket and back to the damned mansion. They disappeared, the shadow cats, and left him panting on his hackly, boot-bent doorstep. Savannah, sipping wine she'd made with rose hips, quit the fainting couch and strutted from the house on through the columns. All calabash curves and cowrie shell lips, the queen was bare except for shoes and earrings. He bowed at her red heels to kiss their chili pepper toe tips. Her cameo clip-ons pinching like lady making language parasitic on her ears. She took them off and put them on her mad, star-bitten man. No, son, I'm done, she said, and with a laugh, away she went, a tipsy gypsy, all the world's and no one's. Then the lynching. Panjandrum climbed a black gum on his lawn and hung himself like jewelry, swung alone where the jungle trespassed, dangling participially. All right, this next poem is called Telephoning, and it's about an illegal fishing practice, an illegal way of fishing. At least it's illegal. It's on the books in the state of Mississippi, I know for a fact. Telephoning fish is against the law. It's done so often that they needed a law, I guess. And the poem pretty much explains what it is if you don't know. Dirt-stopped, eerie mussel shells were strewn across alluvium, jigsawed by the sun. Barefoot, I waited, saw Jack Langston dunk all comers in the cache, God's champion. Tall cypress knees loomed gray along the bank like tombstones. As the line shrank, words from Jesus on the main line rang inside my head. Sister Lila had sung a couple rounds to start the ceremony. Call him up, rolling off a southern tongue, sounded like call them up, reminding me of Uncle Paul, of all I couldn't be now that I was Langston's kind of Christian. Tangly red hair like daughter in the sun, Paul taught me how to call them up. He stole his mama's antique hand-cranked telephone, a little generator, powerful enough to be our magic fishing reel. With rubber seats and boots, we'd float the cache, cathedral quiet if not for chirp or splash. Mirrored dimly in the river's brown, Tupelos towered, cypress, gum, and ash. We'd hook 2 12-gauge wires up to the phone and drop them in the water 12 feet down. Finally, when I was 12, my uncle said, "Here, man this winder. You ain't no little kid." The fish lived through the shock but couldn't swim for minutes, only float. I cranked like mad. As Paul took hold of the dip net, here they came, flathead, blue cat, buffalo, and brim. It was time. My feet went clean, invisible, and read the riverbed's treacherous braille. Langston covered my nose and mouth with white, then braced my back and said, "Surrender all." In a wet rush, I felt my blood ignite and shivered as I rose, electrified. So this next one will be the last poem I read. Again, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and George for getting this set up. This poem is called Mystery. If there's anything I need to set up for you, a couple of references. One to a guy named Sam Doyle, who was an outsider artist, folk artist from the Gullah Islands of South Carolina. And there's also an oblique reference to a West African myth in which Legba, the son of the high goddess Mawu, a trickster god, Legba is, delivers the day's destiny down to earth in the form of mail. It's like she writes it out as if it were mail she's sending to earth. The high goddess writes out what's going to happen every day, gives it to Legba. Legba's the cosmic mailman and delivers the mail that becomes the day. And there's a poem about that earlier in the book, but since I haven't read that one, I thought I would give you a little background on that myth. My grandma painted pictures of her face on junkyard treasures, light bulbs, globes, ball bearings. My favorite was a frowning yellow vase with messy eyes like boot-squashed blueberries. 2 years after she died, we bought a house along a fault line. I remember fearing the vast black fields would crack as bright as lightning, hell's glow exposed. Though far from marvelous, our first tremor caused Grandma's vase to dance off my dresser and break across the floor. I sat up half the night, my smooth, small hands roughened with glue, puzzling shards back together. The years have hidden that pale vase. I fear it may be lost the crevices like fault lines on the face, mapping her spirit. By now, I can't be sure. Did she paint those? Or were they cracks I mended carefully? There is no one to ask. No one knows. Everything that shatters is a mystery. Sam Doyle, an artist of the Gullah Islands, painted in the colors of coastal moons and with a virtuosic violence, high art in voodoo vision, blues cartoons. I motored into Sam Doyle country once and found a gallery with 2 or 3 of those wild works he used to trade for whiskey. A docent told me Doyle believed the haints he often painted fled their sweetgrass jungle when a car first disturbed the island night. Most of his art would leave the coast as well. Picking strawberry guava, a man outside the gallery said he remembered Doyle. He called him Uncle Sam, and I thought, yes, but one we never knew. Breathing the smell of a salt wind rattling the wild palmettos, I wondered where a car-shy haint might flee now that birds nest in Walmart's R's and A's. Everything that scatters is a mystery. A scientist says to me, I thrive on knowing. For 20 years, he's researched one scant slice of brain. I get it. Granddaddy's been hoeing one garden plot for even longer. It's nice to know a passage of the world by heart. From Om to Amen, sacred books agree. The world is words. One myth says destiny is cosmic mail, epistolary art. Science, then, is grammar, and power to it, that noble, necessary enterprise. Praise be for ophthalmology, and yet it can't tell all that's in a lover's eyes. The world poem, if parsed, will not reveal its meanings one and all and settle matters. What we know, we never know in full, for all around our best interpreters, vases are dancing, spirits flying free. Everything that shatters, everything that scatters, everything that matters is a mystery. Thank you all.